The world was stunned by footage of a Philippine supply boat under siege. On a routine mission to the BRP Sierra Madre, a symbol of Philippine sovereignty at Ayungin Shoal, the small vessel was swarmed by massive Chinese Coast Guard ships. The Chinese ships didn't just block, they threatened, horns blaring, cutting dangerously close. It was David versus Goliath on the open sea. The Filipino crew pressed on, determined to reach their marines. Suddenly, a Chinese ship fired a water cannon, shattering windows and injuring crew. This was no longer a simple maritime dispute, it was a violent act, broadcast worldwide. China, a superpower, was using brute force to assert its claims. The message, might makes right. This incident became a flashpoint, the culmination of years of rising tension. The world saw the raw reality of the South China Sea conflict. Abstract lines on a map became real, about people, about a nation's right to exist without fear. The viral images sparked outrage and concern across the globe. The international community now faced a critical question. What happens next? Would the world, especially the United States, respond? The stakes had never been clearer. The confrontation at Ayungin Shoal was a wake-up call. It exposed the risks of unchecked aggression in the region. The Philippines stood firm, refusing to be bullied in its own waters. The world was watching, and the balance of power in Asia was suddenly in play. The South China Sea was no longer a distant dispute, it was everyone's concern. The next move could change the course of history. The battle for Ayungin Shoal is just one front in China's campaign to dominate the South China Sea. The shoal lies well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, recognized by international law. Since 1999, Filipino Marines have lived on the grounded BRP Sierra Madre, holding the line for their nation. China, however, claims nearly the entire sea, enforcing its claims with relentless gray zone tactics, harassment, intimidation, and blockade. Chinese Coast Guard ships shadow Philippine vessels, use lasers to blind crews, deploy floating barriers, and unleash water cannons. Each resupply mission is a dangerous ordeal, testing the nerves and courage of Filipino sailors. China's strategy is attrition, make every mission harder, hoping the Philippines will eventually give up. But the opposite has happened. China's bullying has only strengthened Filipino resolve and united the nation. The world is now paying attention to this remote, but crucial, shoal. The fight for Ayungin is a symbol of a larger struggle for freedom and justice. Filipino Marines and sailors have become heroes, standing up to a superpower. China's actions are designed to erase the Philippines' claim, but have instead galvanized resistance. The pattern is clear, systematic, relentless pressure to force the Philippines out. Yet, the Filipino spirit endures. The world is watching, and the stakes are higher than ever. The battle for Ayungin Shoal is about more than territory, it's about sovereignty and dignity. The Ayungin Shoal standoff is just one piece of China's broader strategy. For years, Beijing has methodically expanded its control over the South China Sea. The most dramatic move, building artificial islands on submerged reefs, transforming them into military outposts. These islands bristle with runways, radar, missiles, and harbors, unsinkable aircraft carriers projecting Chinese power. This expansion defies international law. In 2016, a Hague tribunal ruled overwhelmingly against China's claims. China dismissed the ruling, ignoring the law and the global outcry. Each new base, each act of harassment, chips away at the rules-based order. The message, power, not law, decides who controls the sea. This creeping takeover threatens the stability of the entire Indo-Pacific. The world's response has been slow, but the threat is now impossible to ignore. China's long game is changing the balance of power, one reef at a time. The South China Sea is no longer just a regional issue. It's a global challenge. The stakes, freedom of navigation, international law, and the future of the world order. The time to act is now. Behind the headlines, ordinary Filipino fishermen are paying the price. For generations, these waters have been their lifeblood. Now, places like Scarborough Shoal are no-go zones, patrolled by Chinese ships. Fishermen are chased away, their nets cut, their catch confiscated. Many have abandoned traditional grounds, forced to risk more for less. Incomes have plummeted, families struggle to survive. The sea that once fed them is now a source of fear. The psychological toll is immense: anger, helplessness, and a loss of dignity. "This is our sea," one fisherman says, echoing generations before him. The sense of injustice runs deep. These are not soldiers, but civilians trying to feed their families. Their courage is remarkable, but they shouldn't have to risk their lives for a day's catch. The human cost of China's aggression is real. Empty nets, empty stomachs, broken communities. Their plight is a powerful reminder. When nations clash, the most vulnerable suffer most. The world must not forget their stories. The fight for the South China Sea is about more than maps and claims. It's about people. The fishermen's struggle is the human face of this conflict. Their resilience is a call for justice. Their voices must be heard. The Philippines faces a daunting challenge: defend its sovereignty or risk conflict with a giant. The government has chosen to fight back with transparency, documenting and publicizing China's aggression. By shining a light on these confrontations, the Philippines has rallied global support. This new assertiveness marks a sharp break from past appeasement. The nation is modernizing its Navy and Coast Guard, and deepening alliances, especially with the United States. The goal isn't war, but credible defense. The slogan, "Atin ito," this is ours, has become a rallying cry. From politicians to fishermen, Filipinos are united in defending their waters. The Philippines may be small, but its courage is immense. The world is taking notice. The line has been drawn. The Philippines will not be pushed aside. The fight for sovereignty is now a fight for national identity. The U.S. responded to the crisis with unmistakable force. Warships from the 7th Fleet sailed into the South China Sea, signaling support for the Philippines and warning China. Joint patrols and exercises with Filipino forces boosted morale and readiness. The 1951 Trutripapurtsain Ritatne Intrine Ins Inductortans Incline Tritansik Okursigns Britain now clearly covers attacks in the South China Sea. U.S. officials have declared any armed attack on Philippine forces will trigger American commitments. This show of force is meant to deter, not provoke. For the Philippines, American warships are a powerful symbol of solidarity. The dynamic in the region has shifted. China now faces a united front. The U.S. presence is a game changer. The stakes are higher, but so is the resolve to defend peace. The world is watching, and the message is clear. Aggression will not go unanswered. The U.S. naval presence is about more than power. It's about defending international law. China calls it provocation, but the real goal is to prevent conflict and uphold freedom of navigation. The South China Sea is a global artery. Trillions in trade pass through each year. If one nation controls it, the world economy suffers. U.S. operations called Freedom of Navigation Operations challenged China's illegal claims. America doesn't take sides on territorial disputes, but insists they be settled peacefully and legally. Sailing near China's artificial islands is a statement. These are international waters, not private property. The rules-based order is at stake. This isn't America versus China. It's the world versus chaos. The U.S. stands for a lawful, stable world. The message, might does not make right. The world's oceans must remain open to all. The fight is for the future of global order. Why should the world care about distant reefs? The South China Sea is a vital artery. 1/3 of global shipping, trillions in trade, pass through each year. Oil, goods, and food supplies for billions depend on its stability. If one nation controls it, global supply chains and economies are at risk. The sea is rich in oil, gas, and fish, resources crucial for millions. China's actions threaten not just neighbors, but the world's economic security. This conflict is a test of the global order. If rules are ignored here, they're weakened everywhere. What happens in the South China Sea affects us all. The fight is for a world governed by law, not force. The South China Sea crisis is about more than territory. It's about a nation's courage, the power of alliances, and the future of peace. The Philippines' resilience has inspired a global coalition. Australia, Japan, the UK, France, and others now stand together. Unity is the best defense against coercion. Diplomacy must continue, but deterrence is essential. The world must help Southeast Asian nations build their defenses and uphold freedom of navigation. This is a test of our commitment to a rules-based world. The courage of Filipino Marines and fishermen is an inspiration. Their fight is a fight for all of us. As we look to the future, unity and vigilance are vital. The line in the South China Sea is about the world we want to live in. The stakes are global. This is a future worth defending.